Hey, it's Hexy. All right, you're seeing it for yourself. My first go round with LnL Tactical. So the first game I purchased from Lock and Load Publishing in this system was the Heroes of the Motherland. Um, I had talked to the OG about it, about where I could start, and of course, being a little later into the years of wargaming, some of the early modules or boxes weren't available. So he recommended this, which of course I like the Eastern Front anyhow. So this worked out. So I finally got the game to the table. Of course, this was sort of inspired by David Heath sending me all this stuff, and of course, one of the really nice things sending me was which I showed you already, was the core set rules of 5.1. So I went and pulled out the Heroes of the Motherland and realized I hadn't punched the counters. Well, no biggie, because they're sort of rounded anyhow in the corners. Hexy, he likes his 3.0 rounding, but these are good enough that I didn't have to worry about doing that. So I punched out what I needed for the Rattenkrieg scenario, Rattenkrieg. It was recommended in one of the books I was reading here that's actually a good one to start with, because it's pretty much just infantry. It's short and it's sweet. Okay, so I set it up, had not read the rules, and started reading the rules, kind of a learn as you go type. And the game is 7 turns or 6 turns. Well, it was over in 4 turns for me. While the rule book is meaty, it's not very difficult, actually. So after the first 2 turns, other than like you hit that oddball situation where you need to go dig in the rule book, I played the last 2 really without having to use the rule book to look at anything. So the objective in this one was the Russians. This is when 14th Panzer made its way to the Volga River, or was making its way to the Volga River. And I'm believing this is just above on the north side of Stalingrad. I haven't done any research yet on it, but I think that's where the Germans closed to the river first. And then the Russians decided, we're not letting this happen. Let's punch back. And they did, with some guards units, infantry, and just some regular infantry. And the Russians start over here in this area, and they're a pretty massive amount. And the Germans with some nice quality troops sort of scattered here among the buildings. So it's pretty much a Russian sort of surge or rush. And the objective is the green building here, the 2 hexes here. Now, the game has add-on counters for like light woods, a wooden building here. What this one was missing, and I'm sure there's an explanation somewhere, was the heavy concrete or heavier concrete building marker. I couldn't find one in the counter mix. Got the rubble markers, got the forest markers, and the wooden building, of course. And then some flames, some stuff that's on fire, and then there's some trenches and whatnot in here. And you place them according to the instructions. Most of it's just gives you, hey, you can put 3 of these down in such and such area or something like that. All right, but so the Russians surge forward. You have opportunity fire. You have spotting. So anybody inside of any kind of cover, pretty much in anything except for out in the clear, is not spotted. You can see the hex, but you can't necessarily see any opposing force or enemy forces in the hex until they expend some movement points, or you do a spotting attempt and attempt to see them, which if you're going to do that, you have to be cautious about who you use to spot. All right. Then once the unit's spotted, anybody that has line of sight to it can see that unit for the turn. And then it refreshes during your administrative phase, and you start the process pretty much all over again. So it's basic movement, it's fire, it's observation, and then you got melee. Okay, so in this game here, the Russians had the numbers, although the Germans had 2 good leaders. And you realize while you're playing this thing to debate between, do I move this guy now, or do I keep him where he is and fire? What kind of advantages you're going to get by staying stationary and shooting from the cover you're in, or whether or not you need to move to another location. And I think the failure for the Germans in this game was when I deployed one of the leaders with a MG42. I decided that I put him up here in the southern area. I needed to move him back here to the objective to protect it, because the infantry unit that was back here, he moved forward and he just got himself smoked. So once I moved him, I think trying to decide between finishing his move from where he was and getting him into cover, or just leaving him where he was and fire. I think having to make that choice put him in a bind. He did do a good job, but the Russians just overwhelmed the weaker or the separated infantry units that I had. So there's something you got to consider is stacking your units together and how you want to set your defense up. You don't want to have a lot of individual units spread out all over the place, especially if your opponent has a larger amount of infantry or a larger amount of troops or whatever on their side, because the numbers for if they get in there for melee, it's odds based, and much like squadron used to be, you roll a kill, you roll a kill number, and if you roll it, every unit in the hex is eliminated. So they make that system very simple, or that part of the game very simple. A lot of good details in the game with traits and stuff, special abilities and things like that. Snipers are pretty unique. Weapons teams are what you want to call crew-served weapons. Leadership, heroes, things like that. So, had fun with this. Definitely an overwhelming Russian victory because, as you can see right here, there's not a German unit left on the map. They're all right here, and they're all dead. All right. So we played 4 turns out of 6 or 7, and actually quite enjoyed this. So I think I'm going to go ahead and step into not necessarily the next scenario, but I might go back to the beginning of the scenario list. I think they're done in sequence, if I remember Dev telling me that. And we're going to start playing again. So this is LnL Tactical. This is from Heroes of the Motherland, using the 5.1 rule set and the nice player aids that David sent me. And let's get after another game. If you got it, get it out, play it. Let me know what you think. And if you have played it, let me know what you think. All right, talk to y'all soon.